Every 28 days, your body runs one of the most sophisticated biological programs in all of human biology. And most people have never been taught how it actually works. It is not just bleeding. It is not just hormones going up and down randomly. It is 4 chemicals operating in a precise timed sequence across 4 separate organs simultaneously, rebuilding an entire organ lining from scratch every single month. And if even one signal arrives late, or too early, or not at all, the entire sequence fails. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what those 4 hormones are, what each one does, why the sequence matters, and what happens when it goes wrong. This is the science of the menstrual cycle, and it is far more extraordinary than you were ever told. 4 hormones control the entire menstrual cycle: FSH, estrogen, LH, and progesterone. Each one is produced by a different organ. Each one triggers the next in sequence. And together, they coordinate the brain, the pituitary gland, the ovaries, and the uterus, all at the same time. The cycle resets every 28 days on average. Day 1 is always the first day of menstruation. And that is where we begin. On day 1, the uterine lining, called the endometrium, begins to shed. This lining spent the last cycle building itself up, growing thick and nutrient-rich, waiting for a fertilized egg that never arrived. Without the signal from a pregnancy hormone, the body withdraws the blood supply to that lining. The vessels constrict, the tissue loses its support, and it sheds. This is not a malfunction. This is a controlled demolition. The body clearing the site to rebuild again. At the same time, on day 1, a region of the brain called the hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary gland, a small gland at the base of the brain, about the size of a pea. The pituitary responds by releasing follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH. FSH travels through the bloodstream down to the ovaries, where it finds small fluid-filled sacs called follicles. Each follicle contains 1 egg. FSH stimulates several follicles to begin growing simultaneously, and a competition begins. As the follicles grow, they begin producing estrogen. Estrogen is doing 2 critical things at exactly the same time. First, it travels to the uterus and signals it to begin rebuilding the endometrium, laying down a thick, nutrient-rich lining in preparation for a potential pregnancy. Second, it travels back to the brain, where rising estrogen levels signal the pituitary to reduce FSH production. The body stops stimulating new follicles because the process is already underway. By around day 7, 1 follicle has grown larger than all the others. This is called the dominant follicle. It continues growing. The others stop and dissolve. The dominant follicle keeps producing estrogen, and by around day 12, estrogen levels have peaked. And at that peak, something dramatic happens. The brain detects the estrogen peak, and instead of suppressing hormones, it does the opposite. It triggers a massive surge of luteinizing hormone, LH. This LH surge is the most critical hormonal event in the entire cycle. It hits the dominant follicle like a signal flare. The follicle wall ruptures, and the egg is released into the fallopian tube. This is ovulation, and it happens in under 24 hours from the moment the LH surge begins. The released egg has 12 to 24 hours to be fertilized, but sperm can survive inside the reproductive tract for up to 5 days. This is why the fertile window spans several days around ovulation, not just the day itself. Timing matters, but the window is wider than most people think. After the egg is released, the ruptured follicle does something that most people have never heard of. Instead of dissolving, it transforms. It collapses inward and becomes a completely new structure called the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum is a temporary gland. It forms in minutes, and it immediately begins producing progesterone. Progesterone maintains the uterine lining, keeping it thick, stable, and receptive. It also suppresses further LH and FSH release, so no new eggs are triggered during this phase. The body is now waiting. If fertilization occurs, the developing embryo produces a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG. This is the hormone that pregnancy tests detect. HCG tells the corpus luteum to keep producing progesterone, maintaining the lining, and preventing menstruation. If fertilization does not occur, the corpus luteum receives no signal. After approximately 14 days, it stops producing progesterone. It fades. It dissolves. Progesterone levels drop sharply. The uterine lining loses its support, blood vessels withdraw, and menstruation begins again. Day 1. The brain, the pituitary, the ovaries, the uterus. All 4 organs communicating through hormones simultaneously in a continuous feedback loop, each one responding to the signals produced by the others. FSH rises, follicles grow. Estrogen rises, lining builds. FSH falls. Estrogen peaks, LH surges. LH surges, ovulation occurs. Progesterone rises, lining maintained. Progesterone falls, cycle resets. Every signal triggers the next. Every organ listens and responds. The precision is extraordinary. But this system is sensitive. The hypothalamus, the region of the brain that starts the cycle, is constantly monitoring the body's overall state. Chronic stress, poor nutrition, extreme exercise, thyroid disorders, significant weight changes. Any of these can cause the hypothalamus to reduce or stop its signal to the pituitary, delaying or suppressing ovulation entirely. Because from the brain's perspective, if conditions are not safe for pregnancy, the cycle can wait. Polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, disrupts the follicle selection process. Multiple follicles begin developing, but none becomes dominant. Without a dominant follicle, estrogen does not peak normally. Without the estrogen peak, the LH surge does not fire. Without the LH surge, ovulation does not occur. Endometriosis occurs when tissue similar to the endometrium grows outside the uterus. It responds to the same hormonal signals each cycle, but with nowhere to shed, causing chronic inflammation and pain. Both conditions are rooted in the same hormonal sequence we have been following, disrupted at different points. Understanding this hormonal sequence is not just biology. Hormonal contraceptives work by introducing synthetic versions of estrogen and progesterone, suppressing FSH and LH, preventing follicle development and ovulation from occurring. Fertility treatments work by introducing FSH directly, stimulating follicle development in people whose bodies are not producing enough naturally. Every diagnosis, every treatment, every contraceptive decision, all of it traces back to the same 4 hormones and the sequence we just followed. The menstrual cycle is not a monthly inconvenience. It is a 28-day hormonal program running continuously, coordinating 4 organs, using 4 precisely timed chemical signals to rebuild an entire organ lining from scratch every single month. And it has been running, without you thinking about it, your entire life. That is extraordinary. Subscribe for more videos on how your body actually works.